Hi, I'm Dave,
And I'm Mike.
and we love the Myers-Briggs.
Absolutely love it.
We smear it on toast.
I didn't know where you were going with smear. I'm glad. I thought we were going to get into some Freudian anal stage thing. I don't know. That's okay. Good.
On that note,
yes,
we're with this video, we're going to attempt to talk about the SJ.
yes,
The SJ.
the SJ
Temperament,
type. And what's particularly important about SJs for Dave and I is that Dave and I share a similar experience, and that is that we are NFs who were raised in an SJ world, meaning that every member of our immediate families were SJs. So I grew up almost entirely with SJs, and what's interesting is my own son is an SJ too. So even the generation beneath me is an SJ, and so we have a lot of SJ experience for an NF. I think we have more SJ experience than any NFs that we know.
Yeah.
Personally.
Possibly a little too much.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Liking. Yeah.
So, all right. So Dave, let's be positive. Let's start off positive. You know, we're NFs, and so let's start off positive. What are some of the things that you appreciate most about SJs?
The fact that they will get things done regardless of how they feel about them. You know, speaking NF, I find it difficult to get something done if I'm not feeling into it. You know, I have to not only want to do it, but I have to feel some sort of, I don't know, cosmic obligation to do it. You know, like the planets have to be in perfect sync with them to have like some type of chore done, at least for like my poetry or whatever, or some writing I'm doing. Otherwise, I'll just like procrastinate it or whatever. But an SJ will just do it regardless. You know, if there's a deadline, they'll have it by the deadline, if not beforehand. You know, and I feel that's very admirable. You know, I really respect that. So, yeah. How about you? What would be a trait?
I think what I like best about the SJs is that they're trustworthy, and they're trustworthy in two sense of the word trustworthy. They're trustworthy in the sense that they care about the community they belong to. So you can trust them. You know what I mean? The SJs out of all the types, let's just be honest, will always take one for the team. Okay, out of a sense of duty. You know what I mean? They always care about the community. That's not true about all of us, even us. I won't always take one for the team.
Yeah.
I might take one for the team, big time, but then again, I might not. You know, but SJs do, so you can trust them. You know, sort of emotionally to do that in terms of the group or the family you belong to, and you can also trust them in that they're very regular in their patterns. Okay, and I realize that somehow comes across as being boring, you know, and mundane, and certainly to other types it may. But you can trust their behavior. You know, you can trust that they're going to be where they say they're going to be. You can trust that they're going to do what they're going to do. You can trust their routine. You know, if you're living with an SJ or you have SJs in your life and they have routines, you can trust that routine. You can count on that routine. And that's very good, because you can't do that with all the other types. Even the NFs, you can't always do that. You know, so I think that you can trust the SJs on multiple levels, I think, is really the best thing that I like about dealing with SJs. You know, now saying that though, we're NFs, very sensitive people, living in SJ families. So, in spite of all these positive things, what's that been like, Dave, to be in an SJ family?
It's rough.
As an NF.
As an NF.
If you're another SJ, it's great.
Yeah, it's paradise. But for an NF, no, not so much. Phrases I hear a lot. Get a job. Why do you want to do that? What's the point of that? I don't get that. What is that? It's difficult. They're very they're not in tune with intuition or anything. They're not in tune with the force, so to speak. So it's difficult, especially for an NF. You know, someone like me who wants to be like who's a Buddhist and wants to like major in creative writing and also Buddhist studies or anything that has to do with the humanities. SJs don't really get. They don't see the point in it. They're very pragmatic, which is a good thing to a certain extent. But for when it comes to support emotionally, not so much. They just want you to get a job, which I have too, by the way, and they still want me to get a job. So it's frustrating at times, but you know, I guess they mean well.
Yeah, that's true. That's what you could say about all SJs. They meant well. You know, that's true. That could be their motto. We mean well.
Yeah.
And they do. You know, they do. That's right.
So, what about you? What would be?
I think what's really hard, I think growing up with an SJ family is that there was a whole depth to myself in my imagination specifically that my SJ family could not begin to appreciate or understand on any level whatsoever.
Yeah, that's
okay.
True.
That's and I don't fault them for that, but there was a whole internal world going on with me that very early on, and you might have had a similar experience, I realized that it is pointless to share with them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's pointless to share my imaginative self, my fantasy self, my depth self. I mean, really young, like 7, I understood that there was a whole level of my world that I was just going to keep to myself because there was really no point in telling them because there was no way they were going to grasp it or understand it or appreciate it. Mm-hmm. And that has caused me to this very day, I'm 41, okay, and I'm still dealing with SJs in my family, to this day sort of compartmentalize what I share with them about what's going on in my world, in my internal world. I mean, not my external world. They know where I live. They know that. Right. But there's a whole level of my internal world that I don't even bother to communicate about.
And that's saying a lot from an extrovert.
That's right. As an ENFP, that I'm sort of making a list of these are just things I'm not going to talk about with my family. And
it's an ENFP making a negative list.
Yeah. Well, that's what SJs do to you. Okay? You happy, SJs? That's what you bring out in the ENFP. But it's not that, and it's not that they were necessarily negative or mean-spirited. It wasn't a mean-spiritedness that I was holding back from, but a total, it was basically speaking to a vacuum almost. There was no way that they could even understand it or see that it's important, so it was ignored. That's what it was. So, you don't want to be ignored about whatever your dreams and fantasies are, so you just keep them to yourself. And I still follow that now. There's a whole, even to this day, I do that. 40 years later, so that's what you have to look forward to. 20 years from now.
Great. And I already do that being an INFJ, so it's like tenfold.
That's right. All right, but what about, what do you think has been the most difficult thing to deal with specifically as an INFJ? Because you do share the J with them.
Right. Well, we do have relate to that, like we do make judgments and stuff, and I think we can relate on some level to that, but on the hardest thing, specifically from an INFJ standpoint, would be just because I'm so secretive anyway, and they, being SJs, kind of like want to know.
Oh, yeah. Jesus Christ.
Like, they want to know.
The thought police.
Yeah. They want to know, like,
yeah, everything.
Everything, like who did you hang out with? What movie did you see? Who drove? What car did you drive in? Were the parents home? And it's just like, who cares if the parents are home? It's just like me and 5 friends. It's just, I'm like 22. Like, give me a break. They still ask So it's a bit frustrating because I like my privacy, you know, and they always like to infringe on it. So that's really aggravating sometimes. And sometimes like I'll just before I even walk through the door, I'll be kind of like aggravated because I already know like the 1,000 questions I'll be asked, you know, as soon as I walk in. So usually that's when I just try to like say, yeah, today was good, and I just try to run up the stairs and go into my room and hide under that rock that feels so comfortable.
Yeah, favorite rock.
Yeah.
All right, so that's it. So
All
until
right.
next time.
Until next time. See you next video.